This is a ninth grade geography class covering 2.3b of the Utah Common Core. What this will be talking about is diffusion. So, to start the class off, I will have the students be watching as they come in the classroom different video clips of different cultures. So there'll be like a video clip of the Bantu tribe in Africa. There will be a clip of the indigenous people of New Zealand. There will be people from Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Australia, and there will be people of China, Japan, Thailand, just different video clips as they walk in, and they're just going to observe. And so, okay, so class, we've just watched, as you walked in, several clips of different people from around the world, different cultures, different lifestyles. What I now want you to do is if you could each turn to a partner, we're going to do KWLs. And as you know, as we've done before, the KWL is the what do you know, what do you want to know, and what have you learned. So right now we're going to focus on what do you know. Today we are talking about diffusion, and diffusion is going to lay the foundation for the rest of the unit. So it's important that you understand the different concepts behind diffusion. So first off, under the what do you know, I want you and your partner to discuss what you know. So spend the first minute jotting down what you already know about diffusion. And then after that minute, what you're going to do is you'll turn to your partner. You will then each say what you already know and discuss it and see if maybe you think of something new or if it helps you gain a better understanding of what the other person knows. And then as soon as we do that, we will move on to the lesson and we'll kind of discuss what you know. Okay, so now that you've done that with your partners, what is cultural diffusion? What do you think that is? Okay, Sam, yeah, you're definitely in the right direction. Does anyone else have any ideas? Okay, yeah, Jessica, that's definitely going in the right direction and definitely kind of pulling together what you discussed in your KWL. So what cultural diffusion is what we're going to do first, actually, let me back up. In your guided notes for the whole unit, the very first page is on diffusion. In that packet, what I want you to do is I want you to write what the goal of this unit is. And all of this is on our PowerPoint as well. And so just write down, and I'm going to let you make sure that you guys all get it written down. So the goal of this unit is that students will understand the human and physical characteristics and places and regions. So again, that students will understand the human and physical characteristics of places and regions. All right, so now that you've written that down, what's important for me to have you understand is that this is effective. It's important that you understand how cultures spread and how they affect one another. And so that's what this whole lesson is about today. So basically, cultural diffusion, and you'll put this, the very first line is cultural diffusion, you'll write next to it. It is what happens when the cultural beliefs and social activities are spread through different ethnicities, regions, nationalities, etc. So again, it is what happens when different cultural beliefs and social activities are spread through different ethnicities, religions, and nationalities. Okay, perfect. So now that you'll see in your notes, you have 5 different kinds of diffusion listed. Now, 4 of them, 4 out of the 5, have a spot for you to write the definition, draw a picture, and give an example. Now, on the give an example part, it is a two-part. There's example A and example B. I will give you example A, and then it is up to you to come up with a second example that you will then write down. So what you'll do is between now and 2 days from now when you come back to class, I will want to see and I will check off that you have come up with examples to fill in for example B. So the reason that one of the types of diffusion does not have those parts is because the rest of them are just different subtypes of that diffusion. So to start, I have the pictures drawn that I want you to draw as well, or if you can think of something easier to help you remember the types of diffusion, you are welcome to use that. What I will do is I have drawn them out myself, and then I will post them on the board for you to look at and for you to draw yourself. Okay, so the very first one we're going to talk about is relocation diffusion. And so I'm going to give you the definition before I explain the picture, and that will help you better understand the picture. So, here is the picture of relocation diffusion. The definition of this is the spread of an innovation or other element of culture that occurs with the bodily relocation or migration, as we've previously discussed, of the individual or group responsible for the innovation. Now, first off, do we remember what migration is? Yes, Lance, perfect. It's just the movement of people. Now, do we know what innovation is? Okay, so what innovation is, we haven't really talked about it, so I don't expect you to know it, but what innovation is that it is just simply new ideas, new technology, new inventions that are come up with different cultures. Okay, so back to our picture. We've got relocation diffusion. So you see before migration and after migration. If you notice, there are several circles here. So this group knows something, or they have a certain cultural tradition. They then migrate over here, and now these people know. So here's the after. Everybody knows in both locations. Okay, now the example that I will give you is the migration of Christianity with European settlers who came to America. So, as you know, when the Europeans came over, a lot of missionaries came over to spread Christianity among the Native Americans. And so that is a form of relocation diffusion. So they brought Christianity from Europe over to North America, into the New World, to teach the natives. Okay, so if you notice, the second one is expansion diffusion, and there is just a spot for a definition because that's the one that has the different types. So, under expansion, I would like you to write that expansion is an innovation or idea that develops in a source area and remains strong there while also spreading outward to other areas. So picture it like my hand's right here. This is the main idea. Now, it's going to spread out, but this is still stay strong. My fist is still closed tight. So just think about it like that. Just kind of picture yourself when you think of expansion. Make a fist and think, okay, this is my source of the innovation. It is strong. If you keep your fist tight, it'll remind you that it's strong. And then if you just kind of think about it going off in different directions, that it is just spreading. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the different types of diffusion or expansion diffusion. The first one we're going to discuss is hierarchical expansion diffusion. Now, just remember that I'm going to read these out loud, and I'll repeat myself. It will be on the PowerPoint behind me for you to copy down so that you can listen and you can see it. Okay, so hierarchical expansion diffusion is a type of expansion, diffusion, in which innovation spread from one important person to another or from one urban center to another, temporarily bypassing other persons or rural areas. So now I'm going to explain the picture. So if you see, this is the early stage, later stage. So let's focus on this stage first. In the early stage, you have the origin of the source. If you see these dark black but not shaded circles, those are very important person or place. So think of those as the MVPs. So first, information spreads, so the MVPs are very important person or place. The later stage, if you notice the blue filled in circle, that's just an important person or place. The blue not filled in circle is the person or place low in social economic hierarchy. So basically that's just your average Joe. And so what happens is that it first spreads to the MVPs. Once it has spread there, it is now spreading to important people and then on to the regular people. So an example of this is that sushi restaurants originally diffused or came from Japan in the 1970s very slowly because people were reluctant to eat raw fish. In the US, the first sushi restaurants appeared in major cities like Los Angeles and New York City. Only gradually did it become more popular. So over time, it started in the big cities like Los Angeles and New York City. And then over time, it spread to other cities like Dallas and Atlanta and Salt Lake City here. It spread to Seattle, it spread to Portland, it spread to Chicago. It just spread to these important cities. And then it just came down to your typical small town cities. So then it just kind of like, it was a gradual spread. So think of it this way. It came from your most important people. They all talked about it. It then went down to your important people. They all talked about it. It then went down to your regular people, your average Joes, and they all talked about it. The next kind of expansion diffusion is contagious expansion diffusion. So basically, that's just person-to-person contact. A definition of this is a type of expansion diffusion in which innovation spreads by person-to-person contact, moving wave-like through an area and population without regard to social status. And so if you just kind of see that it's all right here, and then they just kind of all touch. So a picture that I think is better for you and that I would like you to pay more attention to is the people touching hands. So person-to-person contact. So an example of this is the worldwide spread of diseases like HIV/AIDS or Ebola, or when the Europeans first came to the New World, when they brought diseases that they were already immune to, and the natives were not, and it killed them because they'd never experienced it. So that is contagious diffusion by touch. Think about when you're sick and you're contagious and your mom won't let you go to school because she doesn't want it to spread to the other kids. That is an example of contagious diffusion. So the third type of expansion diffusion is stimulus diffusion. So what that is that it is a type of expansion in which a specific trait fails to spread, but the underlying concept or idea is accepted. So that might be a little confusing, but don't worry, we're going to break it down. So if you notice in country A, they have squares. Now they have 3 rows and 3 columns of squares, so 9 total squares. Country B has circles, but they too have 3 rows of circles and 3 columns of circles. So the same basic idea of having 9 of the item, but they have different specific traits. Country A has squares, country B has circles. So an example of this is early Siberian peoples domesticated reindeer only after exposure to domesticated cattle raised by cultures to their south. The Siberians had no use for cattle, but the idea of domesticated herds appealed to them. And they began domesticating reindeer because that was the animal that they had been hunting. basically, it's a same general idea with different specific traits. So the trait fails to spread, so country B did not take on squares as well, but the underlying concept of having 9 in 3 rows and 3 columns did spread. And so that will sum up the different types of diffusion. So what I want you to do as a reminder before in the next class when you come in 2 days, I want you to come up with your own example for each of them in the example B section of each. Remember, expansion does not have that, so you can skip that one. What we will do now is we will have exit slips, and your exit slip is what is diffusion. I just want to know that you understood the main concept behind diffusion. And so basically, just to sum it up, remember, diffusion is a spread of ideas and traditions. And so that will end class because the bell has rung. So I will see you guys in 2 days.